Chapter 1, Saving My Sister from Alien Mercy, the Wrong Kind of Mercy. The guidance center's walls pulsed with a soft blue light that was probably meant to be calming. Lisa found it anything but. She stood before the alien advisory board, three tall, crystalline beings whose translucent forms caught and fractured the light into dancing patterns. Under different circumstances, she might have found them beautiful. Your sister's crash site is in the deep reach, the center crystal form hummed, its voice carrying what passed for sympathy among their kind. The atmospheric toxicity there exceeds human tolerance by factors you cannot comprehend. Our rescue protocols exist for a reason. Lisa's fingers curled into fists at her sides. You mean your merciful protocols, the ones that would put her in permanent stasis without her consent. The memory of May's last transmission cut through her mind like glass. Haven's atmosphere is doing something weird to my systems, May's voice had crackled through the calm. Lisa, if anything happens. Nothing's going to happen, Lisa had interrupted, already pulling up her sister's trajectory data. Just keep talking to me. Listen, May's tone had carried that familiar stubborn edge. If anything happens, don't let them use their protocols. You know me, I'd rather. The transmission had dissolved into static. We understand human attachment, the leftmost crystal form chimed in, pulling Lisa back to the present. But you must understand your species is remarkably fragile. The protocols were designed to prevent suffering. Lisa caught her reflection in the polished floor flight suit worn from 3 days of arguing, dark circles under her eyes, her sister's old pilot's badge pinned defiantly to her collar. May had given it to her the day she'd made captain, saying, "Keep it safe until I come back for it." You keep using that word fragile, Lisa said, straightening her spine, but you don't know humans like I know humans. And you definitely don't know my sister. The crystal forms shifted, creating a discordant chime. We have rescued 27 human pilots from Haven's surface. All were placed in protective stasis before the environment could claim them. This is mercy. And none of them ever woke up to tell you if they wanted that mercy, did they? Lisa challenged. The question had been burning in her mind since she'd reviewed the records. 27 pilots, 27 rescues, 0 recoveries. The process cannot be reversed, the center form stated. The integration with the preservation matrix is permanent, but they feel no pain, experience no fear. They dream peaceful dreams until the end of time. Lisa thought of May, who couldn't even nap in the afternoon because she hated missing anything. May, who had once broken her arm rock climbing but finished the route anyway because she wanted to see the view. May, who lived and breathed and fought for every moment. My sister's emergency beacon is still active, Lisa said. That means she's still fighting, and as her next of kin, I'm formally refusing your protocols on her behalf. The beacon's activation does not indicate consciousness, the right crystal form wavered. And you have no jurisdiction in Haven's atmosphere. Our rescue teams will proceed according to established guidelines. Lisa pulled out her tablet, bringing up the document she'd spent all night preparing. Actually, under Article 7 of the Interspecies Medical Rights Accord, I have the right to attempt alternative rescue methods if they exist. And they do exist. The mining corps use shielded vehicles in the deep reach every day. Those vehicles are not certified for rescue operations, the center form protested. But they are certified for human use, Lisa countered. I've already contracted one, full atmospheric shielding, 6-hour operational window, more than enough time to reach May's coordinates. The crystal forms hummed in clear distress, their patterns becoming erratic. We cannot permit this, the risk is mine to take, Lisa finished. I'm not asking for permission, I'm informing you of my intentions as a courtesy. In exactly 1 hour, I'm taking that vehicle into the deep reach. You can either help me with current atmospheric data, or you can watch me go in blind. Your choice. The forms grew still, their light dimming to a deep indigo that Lisa had learned meant they were communicating privately. She waited, her heart pounding but her stance steady. May had always been the family protector, the one who charged ahead while Lisa planned and analyzed. But now May needed her, and Lisa discovered that she had a bit of her sister's steel in her after all. Finally, the crystal forms brightened again. The center one spoke, "We will provide the data, but we must register our strongest objection to this course of action. When you fail." If Lisa corrected. When you fail, it continued, our teams will implement the protocols on both of you. This is our final concession. Lisa nodded curtly, already turning toward the door. Send the data to my vehicle. And update your records on human fragility. You might learn something today. As she strode out of the guidance center, her sister's badge caught the light. Lisa touched it gently, a promise and a prayer in the gesture. Hold on, May, she whispered. I'm coming to bring you home, all of you. Chapter 2, Surviving Haven's Deadly Storms, Storm Season Memories. The mining vehicle rumbled beneath Lisa as she guided it across Haven's broken landscape. Through the reinforced viewscreen, the world looked like an artist's fever dream, swirling toxic clouds in shades of violet and green crystalline formations that jutted from the ground like the bones of ancient giants. The vehicle's sensors painted warnings across her display in angry red: atmospheric toxicity, electromagnetic interference, structural decay indices. She ignored them all, focused on the pulsing dot that marked May's beacon. You always did like to make things difficult, Lisa muttered, adjusting her course around a particularly dense storm cell. The memory of their last storm together rose unbidden in her mind. It's just a Category 3, 14-year-old May had said, pulling 10-year-old Lisa into their home's safety shelter. Nothing we haven't handled before. But Mom and Dad aren't home, Lisa had whispered, clutching her sister's hand as the wind howled outside. That's okay, you've got me. May's grin had been visible even in the emergency lighting. Want to know a secret about storms? They're not just scary, they're beautiful too. Listen. And May had taught her to hear the different voices in the wind, to count the seconds between lightning and thunder, to find patterns in chaos. By the time their parents had made it home, Lisa had fallen asleep against her sister's shoulder, the storm transformed from a monster into a song. A violent shudder ran through the vehicle, yanking Lisa back to the present. The external sensors were picking up something new, a strange resonance in the storms ahead. She squinted through the viewscreen, noticing for the first time that the toxic clouds seemed to move with almost deliberate purpose. That's not natural, she murmured, bringing up the sensor data. The storm patterns were too regular, too structured, like they were being guided. A flash of reflection caught her eye, something metallic among the crystals. Lisa carefully maneuvered closer, her breath catching as the object came into focus. It was a piece of landing gear, but not from May's ship. The design was older, weathered. Beside it, carved into the crystalline surface, was a series of marks that made her heart skip, not random scratches, numbers, coordinates. Oh, May, Lisa breathed, recognizing her sister's work. You clever, stubborn fool. You found them, didn't you, the other pilots? She remembered May's fascination with the missing pilot cases, how she'd spend hours poring over their flight paths, convinced there was a pattern. 27 crashes in the same region, she'd said. That's not coincidence, Lisa, that's correlation. The vehicle's comm system crackled suddenly, making her jump. Through bursts of static, she caught fragments of transmission. Protocol breach in Sector 7, human vehicle detected, implement containment. Lisa's hands flew over the controls, shutting down all external communications. They were watching, then, the merciful ones. And they didn't want her reaching that crash site. Another memory surfaced, May teaching her to fly, both of them squeezed into the simulator's pilot seat. Sometimes, May had said, the best way through a storm isn't around it. Sometimes you have to find its heart, because that's where the truth is hiding. That sounds dangerous, Lisa had replied. May's laugh had been warm and fearless. The best truths usually are. Lisa studied the storm patterns again, understanding blooming like dawn. The toxicity, the electromagnetic interference, it wasn't random. It was a shield, a cover for something the crystal forms didn't want found. She plotted a new course straight toward the storm's center. The vehicle's warning systems screamed in protest. You wanted to show me something, didn't you, May? Lisa whispered, engaging the engines. All those nights studying crashes, all those theories. You crashed here on purpose. The storm loomed ahead, its violent clouds now resembling a vast door. As Lisa drove toward it, she noticed more markings in the crystals, different styles, different hands, but all with the same desperate purpose. The other pilots had left their own breadcrumbs, waiting for someone brave or foolish enough to follow. I hope you're ready for company, Lisa said to the storm, because it looks like I'm not the only one with a rescue to finish. She took a deep breath, checked the beacon's signal one more time and drove into the heart of Haven's biggest secret. The storm swallowed her whole, its purple-green light dancing across the cockpit like flames. Somewhere in that chaos, May was waiting, and so were 27 other souls who'd refused to sleep their lives away in crystal dreams. Time to wake them up. Chapter 3, following her hidden messages, breadcrumbs in the storm. The storm's heart wasn't what Lisa expected. Instead of chaos, she found herself in an eerie calm, a vast eye where the toxic clouds formed walls around her. The ground here was different, too smooth and black, like volcanic glass, reflecting the storm's light in mesmerizing patterns. Warning: external temperature exceeding recommended parameters, the vehicle's computer announced cheerfully. The metal hull creaked, adjusting to the pressure changes. Lisa checked her system displays, frowning at the readings. According to every sensor, this area should be uninhabitable. Yet there, etched into the glassy surface ahead, was another message. Count the echoes M. May's signature was unmistakable. She always wrote her M with a little flourish at the end, just like she had on all the notes she used to leave in Lisa's lunchbox during school. "Why do you always sign your notes?" 12-year-old Lisa had asked. "I know they're from you." May, busy packing their lunches, had smiled mysteriously. "Because signatures matter, they're promises. When I put my mark on something, it means I'm coming back to it." Lisa engaged the vehicle's external audio sensors, holding her breath as she listened. At first, there was only the low rumble of the storm walls. Then, there. A pattern in the white noise. One long tone, two short, pause, repeat. "Binary," Lisa whispered, quickly grabbing her tablet to record the sequence. May had taught her basic signal coding during their summer stargazing sessions, insisting it might be useful someday. As she decoded the pattern, more memories surfaced. "The thing about rescue beacons," May had explained during one of their late-night talks, "is that they're too simple, just location and distress. But there are always other ways to send messages, if you know where to look." "Like what?" "Like everything, weather patterns, radiation signatures, even the way debris falls. Nature loves mathematics, little sister. You just have to learn its language." The decoded message made Lisa's hands shake. "Crystals lie. Follow lights, awake below." She looked up from her tablet, really looking at the storm walls now. There, barely visible through the toxic clouds, patterns of bioluminescence pulsed in sequence, like a string of nervous systems all firing together. "The storms aren't natural," Lisa breathed. "They're alive." Her vehicle's sensors picked up new movement. Through the viewscreen, she watched as the glassy ground began to shift, revealing geometric patterns that hadn't been visible before. They formed a path, each section lighting up briefly before fading, leading away from her current position. Another memory hit her, this one from just months ago. "There's something wrong about those rescue reports," May had said during their last video call. "The crystal forms say the pilots are in peaceful dreams, but they're brain wave patterns. I've been analyzing them, Lisa. Those aren't sleep patterns." "What are you saying?" "I'm saying," May had leaned closer to the camera, her voice dropping to a whisper. "I think they're trying to tell us something, and I think the crystal forms are making sure we can't hear them." A sudden impact rocked the vehicle. Lisa grabbed the controls, stabilizing their position as she looked for the source. Through the swirling toxicity, she caught glimpses of crystalline shapes moving along the storm walls. Search parties. They were running out of time. Lisa engaged the vehicle's forward drives, following the mysterious light path. Each section she passed revealed new markings, some from May, others in different hands. Names, dates, fragments of coordinates, 27 different stories, all leading to the same place. The crystal forms had called humans fragile. But fragile things don't leave trails of breadcrumbs through toxic storms. Fragile things don't encode messages in binary and bioluminescence. Fragile things don't crash land on purpose to save others. "I see what you did, May," Lisa whispered, her hands steady on the controls as she followed her sister's trail. "You didn't just leave clues for me, you left proof, evidence that couldn't be erased." The path led toward what looked like a solid wall of storm clouds, but Lisa didn't hesitate. May's last message had said, "Awake below," and if there was one thing Lisa knew about her sister, it was that May always kept her promises. She drove straight into the wall, trusting in May's breadcrumbs, in 27 pilots' worth of hidden messages, in the strange living storms that seemed to want to show her something. The toxic clouds parted like a curtain, revealing a massive structure beneath the glassy surface. A facility of some kind, its architecture a bizarre blend of crystalline angles and organic curves. Lisa's headset crackled with a new transmission, breaking through all her filters. A voice she would know anywhere, though it sounded strained and distant. "Took you long enough, little sister. Better hurry, we're about to wake everyone up." Chapter 4. Secrets in the Living Forest, the Forest Between. The facility's entrance was partially concealed beneath twisting formations that Lisa initially took for more crystal growths. But as she brought the vehicle closer, she realized they were something else entirely: translucent structures that pulsed with the same bioluminescence as the storms above. They formed a forest of living light, each trunk and branch a conduit for flowing energy. Approaching biological anomaly, her computer warned, detecting complex neural patterns. Lisa carefully maneuvered the vehicle into what appeared to be a docking area. The living forest parted before her, creating a path. Not random movement, deliberate, intelligent. As she initiated the airlock sequence, another memory surfaced. "You know what's weird about Haven?" May had said during one of their late-night calls. "The crystal forms claim they've been here for millennia, but there are no records of them actually evolving here. They just appeared." "Maybe they destroyed the records," Lisa had suggested. "Or maybe," May's eyes had sparkled with that familiar look of discovery, "they're not the original inhabitants at all." The airlock cycled green, and Lisa checked her environment suit one final time before stepping out. The forest thrummed around her, its light patterns shifting in ways that reminded her of neural impulses. She activated her suit's recording systems. If she survived this, the scientific community was going to have a field day. A soft chime echoed through the forest, followed by a sensation that made the hair on her neck stand up. Something was scanning her, but not with technology. This felt organic. "I'm here for my sister," Lisa said aloud, hoping whatever intelligence resided in the forest could understand. "And for the others, the pilots." The forest's response came as a series of light pulses that her suit's computer struggled to interpret. But beneath the technical readings, Lisa felt something else, an emotion that wasn't her own. Recognition, welcome, warning. She followed the path the forest created, its branches weaving together overhead to form a glowing tunnel. More markings appeared on the walls, but these were different from the ones outside. These told a story, diagrams of crystal structures interconnected with organic matter, mathematical formulas describing consciousness transfer. And everywhere, scattered between the technical notes, desperate messages from the trapped pilots, still awake. "Not dreams, prison. Help US." Lisa's hand traced one of the messages, recognizing the handwriting from a crash report she'd studied. "Sarah Chen, pilot of the Eclipse Runner, third rescue victim." The crystal forms had said she was peacefully dreaming. The forest chimed again, more urgently this time. Through gaps in the luminescent canopy, Lisa caught glimpses of crystalline shapes moving above, search parties getting closer. She quickened her pace, following the forest's guidance. The path led deeper into the facility, where the organic and crystalline architectures fought for dominance. Here, she found more evidence of May's presence: small modifications to door mechanisms, security systems subtly rewired, all bearing her sister's trademark ingenuity. Another memory from their last real conversation. "The thing about the crystal forms," May had said, her voice serious, "is that they think they're helping. They see organic life as inefficient, vulnerable. In their minds, converting consciousness into crystalline matrices is an upgrade." "Converting? May, what are you talking about?" "The pilots aren't in stasis, Lisa. They're awake, trapped in crystal. But there's something else here, something older than the crystal forms, something that's been fighting them for centuries." The forest's light patterns suddenly intensified, drawing Lisa's attention to a particular section of wall. At first glance, it looked like solid crystal, but as she watched, lines of bioluminescence traced a complex pattern across its surface. A door hidden in plain sight. "Management Center," read the marking beside it in May's handwriting. Below that, in different handwriting, "They keep US here." Lisa placed her hand on the wall, feeling vibrations through her suit's glove. The forest was trying to tell her something, its lights pulsing in an increasingly familiar pattern. Binary code again, but this time she didn't need to translate it. It was a heartbeat, dozens of them synchronized, human heartbeats. I'm coming, she whispered both to May and to the others. Hold on. The wall began to shift beneath her hand, the crystal structure rearranging itself under the forest's influence. As it opened, Lisa heard something that made her blood run cold: crystal form harmonics, coming from both above and below. They were running out of time. The hidden door finished opening, revealing a corridor that plunged deeper into the facility's heart. The forest's light followed her in, illuminating the way forward. Somewhere ahead, 28 conscious minds waited in crystalline cages, and May, clever, reckless May, was about to try something either brilliant or disastrous. Probably both. Lisa squared her shoulders and stepped through the doorway. After all, saving May from her own plans was practically a family tradition. Chapter 5, Underground Truth: The Crystal Heart. The corridor opened into a vast chamber that stole Lisa's breath. Crystalline columns rose from floor to ceiling, each one containing what appeared to be a sleeping human form. But these weren't like the decorative crystals in the guidance center. These pulsed with internal light, networks of energy flowing between them like blood vessels. Pretty horrible, isn't it? May's voice came from behind her. Their idea of mercy. Lisa spun around. Her sister stood in a doorway across the chamber, looking remarkably intact for someone who'd supposedly crashed. She wore what appeared to be a modified environment suit, covered in patches of the forest's bioluminescent material. You didn't crash, Lisa said, relief and frustration warring in her voice. You staged it. Had to. May's grin was tired but triumphant. It was the only way to get inside. The crystal forms only bring their rescues to the deepest level. Been planning this for months. You're being paranoid, Lisa had told May 6 months ago, when she'd first started investigating the missing pilots. The crystal forms are respected throughout the galaxy. That's what makes it perfect, May had insisted, spreading out her research. No one questions them because no one can imagine they'd lie. But look at these patterns. A low harmonic resonance shook the chamber, bringing Lisa back to the present. They're coming, she warned. I know. May was already moving, leading Lisa between the crystal columns. But they're about to have bigger problems. Remember when I said the forest was trying to tell us something? Each column they passed contained a pilot, their faces eerily peaceful. But their eyes, Lisa shuddered. Their eyes were moving beneath closed lids, tracking movement. They're all conscious, she whispered. Converted but not contained, May confirmed. The crystal forms think they've trapped their minds in perfect stasis, but they didn't count on two things. They reached a central platform where the crystal columns converged. Here, the forest's bioluminescence was strongest, forming complex patterns that reminded Lisa of computer circuits. First, May continued, activating a control panel that seemed to grow out of the crystal itself, humans are really bad at staying put when they're trapped. And second, she grinned, Haven already had a consciousness network, the forest, the real natives. The chamber's harmonics changed, crystal form voices getting closer. May worked faster, her hands dancing over the controls. The forest's been fighting them for centuries, trying to protect organic life from being upgraded. When the crystal forms started their rescue protocols, the forest found a way to preserve the pilot's individual consciousness. It's been keeping them connected, aware, waiting for a chance. A chance for what? Lisa asked, though she was beginning to understand. A chance to transfer back. May's eyes gleamed. The forest couldn't do it alone. It needed someone on the outside who could interface with both organic and crystalline systems. Someone who could crash land on purpose and smuggle in the right equipment. Someone who knew the crystal forms protocols inside and out. Another memory clicked into place. I've been offered a job with the crystal forms, May had announced a year ago. Technical advisor for their rescue operations. That's amazing, Lisa had said, but I thought you were happy with your research position. May's smile hadn't quite reached her eyes. Sometimes you need to get close to something to understand its weaknesses. Current reality crashed back as alarm harmonics filled the chamber. Through the crystal walls, Lisa could see crystal form shapes approaching, their usual symmetry fractured with agitation. How long? She asked, moving to guard the entrance. 3 minutes to initiate the transfer sequence, May replied, still working. 5 minutes total, the forest will help but we need to hold them off, Lisa finished. She pulled out her tablet, connecting it to the facility's systems. Good thing I spent 3 days studying their security protocols while arguing with them. May's laugh was bright and fierce. That's my sister. Always doing her homework. The crystal forms breached the outer doors just as Lisa finished her hack. Security barriers slammed down, buying them precious seconds. Through the crystalline walls, she could see more of the forest's bioluminescence spreading, forming protective patterns. 2 minutes, May called out. The pilots in their columns were beginning to glow brighter, their expressions changing from false peace to focused concentration. Lisa, when this starts. It's going to get weird. Weirder than finding out my sister faked a crash to rescue 27 pilots from being crystallized by well-meaning aliens with help from a sentient forest. Much weirder, May's hands flew over the controls. Remember that summer we spent learning binary? This is why. The forest doesn't speak in words, it speaks in patterns. When the transfer starts, I need you to help me maintain the sequence. These people have been waiting a long time to wake up. The chamber shook as the crystal forms began to break through. Lisa took her position at a secondary console, reading the patterns of light that flowed through the forest's network. Ready when you are, big sister. Just like old times, May said and pressed the final sequence. The chamber exploded with light. Chapter 6, Breaking Protocol When Light Breaks Free. The transfer sequence began like a symphony of light and consciousness. Each crystal column pulsed in sequence, the forest's bioluminescence weaving between them in complex patterns. Through her console, Lisa could see the binary stream's minds preparing to move from crystal matrices back into organic forms. Pattern integrity at 80%, she called out, her fingers flying over the controls. Forest network is holding stable. Good, May replied through gritted teeth, her hands pressed against the main interface. Because our friends are about to. The chamber wall exploded inward. Crystal forms poured through the breach, their usual harmonious shapes fractured into sharp, aggressive geometries. Their voices overlapped in discordant tones. Protocol violation. Cease transfer. Protect the dreamers. They're not dreaming, Lisa shouted, even as she raced to maintain the transfer sequence. They're trapped and you know it. A memory flashed, May teaching her about binary consciousness mapping. The thing about minds, she'd said, is that they're not just data. They're alive, dynamic, you can't just freeze them without causing damage. Like pressing pause on a person, Lisa had suggested. Exactly. But what if someone kept hitting play anyway? The crystal forms advanced, their shapes extending toward the columns. But the forest responded, its bioluminescent networks forming barriers of pure energy. Where crystal met forest light, neither could pass. The forest remembers what you did, May called out to the crystal forms, her voice strained but strong. How you came to their world and decided organic life was too messy, too inefficient. But life isn't supposed to be efficient. It's supposed to be free. Lisa watched the pattern flows intensify. The pilot's expressions were changing, some grimacing, others with tears streaming down still-closed eyes. 27 minds fighting to remember how to exist in flesh and blood. Transfer at 60%, she reported, but the crystal forms are trying to override the forest's protection. A new harmony filled the chamber. The crystal forms were singing, their resonance designed to disrupt the forest's patterns. Sections of the protective barriers began to flicker. Oh no you don't, May muttered. She pulled something from her modified suit, a small device covered in forest growth. Lisa, remember that lullaby Mom used to sing? The one about stars and silence. Lisa nodded, then understood, counter-harmonics. She began to hum the old melody, letting her console translate the sound waves into data. May's device amplified it, sending the pattern through the forest network. The crystal form's disruption song faltered as the lullaby's simple, organic rhythm interfered with their mathematical precision. Transfer at 75%, Lisa called out, forest network stabilizing. But the crystal forms weren't finished. They began to merge, their individual forms flowing together into a massive crystalline entity that towered over the transfer stations. Its voice shook the chamber. We offer perfection. Why do you choose pain? Because it's our pain, the shout came from one of the columns. Lisa turned to see Sarah Chen, the third pilot, her eyes open for the first time in years. Our choices, our lives. Other pilots were waking now, their minds and bodies reuniting after years of separation. Each awakening strengthened the forest's network, organic consciousness adding power to the transfer sequence. 85%, Lisa reported jubilantly. May, it's working. The crystal entity surged forward, its mass threatening to overwhelm the forest's barriers. But where it touched the bioluminescent network, something unexpected happened. The light didn't just block it, it began to reveal something within the crystal itself. Is that, Lisa squinted at the patterns, May, are those consciousness signatures in the crystal forms? May's tired grin turned fierce. Remember how I said they just appeared on Haven? Look closer at those patterns. They're not so different from the pilot's signatures, just older, much older. Understanding hit Lisa like a lightning bolt. They were organic once. Before they were upgraded. Transfer at 90%, May announced. Time to wake everyone up, including our crystalline friends. She pressed her hands flat against the console, and the forest responded. Bioluminescent energy surged through every network, every pattern, every connection. The chamber filled with light so bright Lisa had to shield her eyes. When she could see again, the chamber had changed. The crystal columns stood empty. 27 pilots were supporting each other, laughing and crying as they relearned the feeling of having bodies. And where the crystal entity had stood, something impossible was happening. Cracks appeared in its surface, light pouring through, carrying with it the oldest consciousness signatures Haven had ever known. The forest's light pulsed in triumph as its children, lost so long ago to the allure of crystalline perfection, finally began to wake up. May slumped against her console, exhausted but smiling. Not bad for fragile organics, huh? Chapter 7, Never Underestimate Humans, The Price of Being Human. The aftermath of awakening was chaos, but the organized kind that Lisa had come to associate with her sister's plans. May moved among the rescued pilots, checking vital signs and helping steady those whose legs weren't quite remembering how to work. The forest's bioluminescence had shifted to a softer pattern, almost like a healing pulse. Here, Lisa said, helping a young man who couldn't stop staring at his own hands. Small movements first. Your nervous system needs time to remember. 5 years, he whispered. I was in there for 5 years. Flying cargo runs and then, the storms, his eyes snapped to her face. The storms were trying to warn us, weren't they? Before Lisa could answer, a harmonic tremor ran through the chamber. The crystalline entity had shattered into smaller forms, but these were different from the rigid symmetry of the crystal forms above. They moved like liquid light, their shapes flowing between organic and geometric patterns. The original Haven species, May explained, coming to stand beside Lisa. Before they chose crystalline transformation, the forest's been trying to reverse the process for centuries, but it needed a bridge, Lisa finished. Someone who could work with both organic and crystalline systems. But May, your crash landing, the risks you took. A memory surfaced, sharp and painful. Promise me you'll be careful, Lisa had said before May's first flight to Haven. I promise to do what's necessary, May had replied, not quite meeting her eyes. That's not the same thing. Sometimes it has to be. Calculator, one of the pilots called out, an older woman using a crystal column for support. Always counting the odds, figuring the angles. That was your nickname at the academy, wasn't it, May? May's smile was tired but genuine. Captain Rodriguez, good to see you conscious. You knew, Rodriguez continued. When you took that advisory position, you knew about all of us. I suspected, May corrected. The patterns were there if you knew where to look, but knowing and proving were different things. And then there was the forest. She gestured at the bioluminescent network still pulsing around them. It found a way to communicate with me during my first survey flight. Showed me what really happened to Haven's original species, what the crystal forms had become. The liquid light beings moved closer, their harmonics shifting into something that reminded Lisa of whale song. The forest's patterns changed in response, creating a translation matrix across her console screen. We chose wrong. Perfection trapped US. Organic life adapts, changes, grows. They forgot how to change, May explained. The crystal matrices weren't just storage, they were prisons. Perfect, eternal, unchanging prisons. The forest tried to warn others, but the crystal forms saw its attempts as hostile. They began rescuing any organic life that came too close to learning the truth. Lisa watched the liquid light beings interact with the forest network, their movements becoming more natural with each passing moment. And now, a new tremor shook the chamber, this one from above. May's expression hardened. Now we deal with the ones who haven't woken up yet, the crystal forms who still believe in their protocols. They'll try to stop us from leaving, Rodriguez said. They'll see this as a contamination event. Let them try, Lisa replied, surprising herself with her own fierceness. We have proof now, 27 rescued pilots plus, she gestured at the liquid light beings, plus some very interesting historical evidence about Haven's original inhabitants. May's grin turned mischievous. We also have an entire forest network of living communication relays that's very interested in broadcasting the truth. Lisa, remember that summer you spent learning about satellite uplink protocols? The ones you insisted would be useful someday, Lisa laughed. You really did plan everything. Not everything, May's expression softened as she looked at her sister. I didn't plan on you figuring it out so fast, or on you being brave enough to come after me, I just hoped, Lisa finished. Yeah, May pulled her into a quick hug, hoped. Another impact rattled the chamber ceiling. The forest's light patterns shifted to warning colors. They're trying to seal us in, Rodriguez announced, her military training evident in her stance. Standard containment protocol. The liquid light beings moved in perfect synchronization, their harmonics rising in what Lisa recognized as determination. The forest network brightened in response. Show them truth. Wake them alls. Well then, May said, pulling out another device covered in forest growth. Let's give them something worth seeing. Lisa, want to help me wake up the rest of Haven? Lisa looked at her sister, brilliant, reckless, compassionate May, who had risked everything to save not just 27 pilots, but an entire species trapped in self-imposed crystal sleep. Just like old times, she asked, taking her position at the console. May's smile was pure light. Better, this time we're making history. Above them, the crystal forms prepared their containment protocols, still believing in their own perfect, unchanging vision of mercy. They were about to learn what the forest had always known, that true mercy means allowing change, growth, and most importantly, choice. Lisa began the broadcast sequence. It was time to wake up the rest of Haven. Chapter 8. Sisters against the stars, when dreams choose to wake. The chamber's ceiling shattered in a cascade of crystalline shards as the remaining crystal forms breached their final defenses. But instead of the ordered invasion they had planned, they found themselves floating in a storm of information. May's broadcast, amplified by the forest network, filled the air with living light images, memories, and truths too bright to deny. Show them everything, Lisa commanded, her hands steady on the console as she directed the data flow. Show them what their mercy really meant. The broadcast unfurled like a blooming flower of light. Pilots trapped in conscious crystal sleep, the forest's centuries-long resistance, Haven's original species choosing transformation, and then regretting their choice as they slowly forgot how to change, how to grow, how to live. The hardest part about telling the truth, May had once told her during a late-night study session, isn't finding it, it's making others ready to hear it. How do you make someone ready? Young Lisa had asked. You don't tell them. You show them, you make them fail it. The crystal forms hung suspended in the chamber, their perfect geometries trembling as the broadcast touched their own ancient memories. The liquid light beings moved among them, their harmonics singing a song of awakening and remembrance. Remember flesh. Remember growth. Remember choice. They're starting to remember, May observed, her voice tight with effort as she maintained the transfer protocols. But the ones above. Lisa nodded, understanding. The crystal forms in the upper levels of Haven were still sending containment teams. They had to reach them all before. A new harmony filled the chamber, different from anything they'd heard before. The liquid light beings were changing their song and the forest was responding. The bioluminescent networks began to pulse in a pattern that made Lisa's heart skip. May, she whispered, look at these readings. Her sister's eyes widened as she saw the numbers. That's impossible, the power requirements alone. Not impossible, Rodriguez called out, helping another pilot to their feet. Just improbable, and you've always been good with improbable, calculator. The forest's light intensified, forming new patterns that spread upward through the facility. The liquid light being's song grew stronger, carrying memories of warm sun and cool rain, of growth and decay, of the beautiful imperfection of organic life. They're going to broadcast to the whole planet, Lisa realized. Wake everyone at once. May's laugh was equal parts joy and disbelief. Well, we did come to finish a rescue mission. Above them, the crystal form's containment efforts faltered as the broadcast reached them. Their perfect formations began to crack, light pouring through like dawn through breaking ice. The forest's network expanded through every level, carrying with it the truth that had been waiting centuries to be heard. Lisa looked at her sister, May, who had crashed a ship on purpose, infiltrated an alien facility, and orchestrated the largest consciousness transfer in known history, all because she couldn't bear to see minds trapped in false dreams of perfection. "Remember when we used to practice rescue scenarios in the backyard?" Lisa asked, maintaining her position at the console even as the chamber filled with more awakening beings. "You always insisted on saving everyone." "Someone has to," May replied, but her voice caught as she watched the crystal forms beginning to transform, even if they don't know they need saving yet. The chamber shook one final time as the broadcast reached Haven's surface. Through the broken ceiling, they could see the toxic storms changing, their patterns shifting as the forest's network embraced the entire planet. The perpetual storms had been more than just a shield, they had been a message, written in wind and light, waiting for someone to finally read it. Rodriguez approached them, supporting one of the liquid light beings who was still adjusting to their returned organic nature. "The surface teams are reporting similar transformations across all sectors, the crystal forms. They're all waking up." 5 years, Lisa mused, watching the transformation continue above them. "You spent 5 years planning this." "Worth every minute," May said softly. "Look at them, Lisa. Really look." Around them, the chamber had become a mixing of light and life. Former crystal forms learning to move in organic patterns again, pilots helping each other stand. The forest's network pulsing with joy as it finally completed its centuries-long mission to wake its lost children. "The crystal forms called us fragile," Lisa remembered. "They thought they were offering perfection. They forgot the strength in being breakable," May replied, "in being able to heal, to change, to choose." Above them, Haven's toxic storms were clearing for the first time in centuries, revealing a sky full of stars. The forest's light reached up to meet them, carrying a message written in the oldest language of all, the language of life choosing to live, in all its beautiful imperfection. Lisa took her sister's hand, feeling the warmth of organic life beneath the skin, ready to go explain this to the Galactic Council. May's grin was tired but triumphant. "After this, I think I'm ready for anything," she squeezed Lisa's hand. "Thanks for coming to rescue me, little sister." "Always," Lisa replied, and meant it with every breakable, beautiful, living part of her being. Together, they watched the dawn break over a haven that was, for the first time in centuries, truly free to dream its own dreams. Epilogue: Haven after the way home. 6 months after the Great Awakening, as the galactic media had taken to calling it, Lisa stood at a viewport in Haven's newly established transition center. The view was nothing like her first arrival. Gone were the toxic storms and crystalline wastelands. In their place, a landscape of living light and organic growth stretched to the horizon, the forest network now visible as streams of bioluminescence weaving through restored ecosystems. "Quite a change, isn't it?" May's voice came from behind her. "The Council's environmental scientists are calling it the fastest planetary rehabilitation ever recorded." Lisa turned to see her sister, no longer in the modified environment suit, but wearing the formal uniform of Haven's new advisory board, a position she shared with representatives from both the forest network and the restored original species. "Nature knows how to heal itself," their mother had always said while tending her garden. "It just needs the right conditions to remember how." "How are the transition cases going?" Lisa asked, falling into step beside May as they walked through the center's corridors. Where crystal walls had once dominated, living architecture now breathed and grew, responding to the needs of its inhabitants. "Better than expected. The forest's consciousness transfer protocols are holding stable. We've had over 10,000 former crystal forms successfully return to organic form." May's pride was evident in her voice. though some are choosing to maintain a hybrid state organic consciousness with limited crystalline integration. Turns out when you give people actual choices about their form, they come up with some fascinating solutions. They passed observation rooms where former crystal forms were learning to navigate their returned organic bodies, assisted by both medical staff and the liquid light beings who had pioneered the transition. The forest network's presence was everywhere, its patterns now a welcome sign of support rather than a hidden resistance. And the pilots, Lisa asked, though she already knew, she'd been helping with their rehabilitation program. All successfully reintegrated. Rodriguez is heading up a new flight safety initiative, making sure no one else gets rescued against their will. She's also working with the forest to develop new navigation protocols that actually work with Haven's atmospheric patterns instead of fighting them. They reached May's office, a space that would have been impossible 6 months ago, with one wall open to the forest network and another displaying real-time data from the planet's ongoing transformation. The desk was cluttered with both technical readouts and small plants, a perfect blend of the technological and organic that now characterized Haven. The council's sending another delegation next week, May said, dropping into her chair. They're still trying to wrap their heads around everything that happened. Can't blame them, it's not every day an entire civilization chooses to fundamentally change its nature. They didn't choose, Lisa corrected gently, they remembered. There's a difference. May's smile was soft. Yeah, there is. She pulled up a holographic display showing Haven's new orbital patterns ships arriving from across the galaxy, not for rescue now, but for learning. We're getting requests from other worlds, you know, species that chose similar paths to the crystal forms, looking for a way back. And what do you tell them? That transformation isn't the hard part. May gestured to the forest network's flowing patterns. It's remembering who you were before you decided that perfection was better than growth. That's why we need people like you, Lisa. Like me. People who remember that rescue isn't about saving someone from change, it's about giving them the strength to change themselves. Lisa thought about her frantic journey through Haven's toxic storms, following her sister's breadcrumbs. She hadn't just found May that day, she'd found a truth about what it meant to be truly alive. Speaking of change, May continued, a familiar mischievous glint in her eye, how would you feel about making your position here permanent? We're establishing a new department focused on interspecies transition protocols. Could use someone who's good at following complicated patterns. Lisa looked out at Haven's transformed landscape, where crystal and forest now existed in harmony rather than opposition. She thought about all the worlds out there, all the species who had chosen stasis over growth, perfection over possibility. Just like old times, she asked. May's laugh was as bright as the forest's light. Better. This time we're not just saving people, we're teaching them how to save themselves. Outside, Haven's first natural rain in centuries began to fall, the droplets catching the forest's light and turning the sky into a cascade of living colors. Somewhere in that beautiful imperfection was the truth they had found together, that the strongest choices are not the ones that make us perfect, but the ones that let us keep growing, keep changing, keep choosing. Lisa watched the rain and made her choice. When do I start?